Do what we do.
Hello and welcome to the Bad Batch Companion Series. I'm Pixel Nick and joined, as always, Mikey. How are you doing tonight?
Dude, sweet man. How you doing?
Pretty good. A little tired from the weekend, but it's a real good weekend and ready to relax and kind of talk about this finale of the Bad Batch, part 2 of 2. Kamino lost. R.I.P. Kamino, all gone, completely destroyed. Yeah, I mean, it's I spent a lot of time reflecting about this series as I watch it because I don't know, for some reason I am always trying to gauge, what kind of series this is going to be from the get-go. And I think I have a good feeling for how this series plans on, playing out over the course of its, what I think is still like 4 seasons. But yeah, they left it on a pretty good note. I think there's a lot of things I liked about the episode. There's some things I didn't like just in terms of it being a finale. But I think they're definitely playing to a specific theme while they were still trying to keep plenty of stuff open, right, for the next season. And I think arguably maybe the next season is going to be more driven down certain story arcs now that, we've kind of come full circle here with the attempt to bring Crosshair back, or in Crosshair's mind, the attempt to bring his boys back. I don't know what you think about it.
That was a pretty good episode overall. Visually, I thought it was like that we talked about. I thought it was probably the most impressive, with all the different settings that take place within this breaking down structure. But at least overall, I thought it was good. Like a lot of action. Said definitely, leaves off where, didn't, answer a lot of questions or give a lot of direction, or, kind of the last scene, I forgot about what's her name, Namaste, but
yeah.
I just thought, like some of them, how we say, like some of them were, a little slow or filler. This was just kind of suspense and action for the most part, the whole way through.
Right. Yeah, they definitely, like we were talking about last episode, they definitely did the whole, this episode is like those moments, right, that we saw from the Empire's point of view of them blowing up the facility, and then we saw them run back in. So we got to see those moments basically as it all kind of came crashing down on them. And yeah, definitely the visuals are really good in this. They're, just like how the last episode ended with just, them raining fire down upon the city. They even doubled down on the visuals where, they're running on the, the walkways, and they're looking down at the cloning pods as they're sinking, and this whole place is just sinking, and real good visuals. And it's that suspenseful action because they never did have another confrontation with like the Empire or anything like that. So it was purely just them trying to escape, and it's really kind of that claustrophobic suspense feeling where there's an inevitable doom coming, and they're basically just trying to survive and get out. And I thought it was cool how they handled that.
Yeah, they even had like a little, almost like a Jurassic Park feeling in the one scene, the two. And I think you did call that there would be one of the big monsters. I don't know if that was the exact one, because I think when they pulled away, it kind of looked like a big snapping turtle or something.
Yeah, I heard someone else call it a turtle too. I thought of episode 1 when they're like under the water going through Naboo. I was thinking of like one of those creatures. Obviously not the same, but it was definitely a callback to like that kind of thing. There's always the bigger fish. But that was cool. It also kind of reminded me of like a kaiju or like Godzilla or some sort of big monster like that, because it's like attacking it and then they electrify it away. So that was cool. And I like them running through the tube system and it's like cracking. Like that was cool because obviously nothing really terrible happened there. I feel like it should have broke when the monster bashed up against it, like brushed it, but you know, it's strong, I guess. But the glass is cracking, which was interesting.
That's what I chalked it up to a little bit, yeah. But like, dude, kind of, you know, mixing a little bit of everything Star Wars related, right? Because there are, you know, big monsters, you know, in Star Wars to begin with. So just a little bit of everything kind of in the finale. You know, like you said, definitely a lot of tight spaces. You know, the Omega, you know, the way they separate them in Omega and Crosshair. And, you know, saving that was real, you know. It's just a lot of suspense and action, you know.
The escape suspense, like almost like the Titanic too, where you know the ship's going down and they're they're trying to get out in the small rooms. I did think it was weird though how they like pried the door open and like her and Crosshair and AZ just kind of came flowing through the door, but not that much water was. So it was, to me, like there should have been way more water coming through, but it worked out. They got them out. I just thought it was really very handy that, you know, the three of them just happened to whoosh right through the door and they fixed that issue.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Maybe they got it a little real quick, but you know, like his record is real fucking strong too. So I guess the water didn't just overtake him; he just let it.
But like when they're walking through the tubes, like I mean, this was a really good line. And it's the whole bit where Crosshair is basically like this whole time, like Crosshair's just like still jabbing, still kind of making comments, but he's also still trying to make his case, right, to Hunter and the rest of the batch as to why they're in the wrong and why they should join him, and you know, basically why they're not on the same side of the coin here. And Tech was like kind of defending him, right, to Wrecker. And, you know, he kind of stops Wrecker and he's explaining to Wrecker that, you know, Crosshair is stubborn, he's unyielding, right? And Crosshair's like, why are you defending me? And he's like, understanding you does not mean I agree with you, or something to that effect. And I mean, that's just basically Tech, and I identify with that too. Like he understands him and can explain his actions, but that doesn't mean he agrees with him by any means. And I just think that's like it's a really cool theme to hint on. And overall, I mean, this show is about like some really cool themes, whether it's like free will or basically, you know, independence, free thinking. Crosshair thinks that they are made for a specific purpose and they have this like bigger goal or purpose in the galaxy, whereas Hunter thinks that just them being different and being able to make their own decisions is what made them them. And that's really kind of the two different ways they think, and that's really ultimately why they're not together, and why Crosshair still chooses he thinks he needs to help the Empire, and Hunter's like, well, no, they're everything that we're kind of not. We're meant to be creative and kind of free thinking, because they took orders, I think, throughout the Clone Wars, and they had missions, but they were always, their whole thing was that they took very unique approaches and how they like problem solve things. So he saw that as free will, whereas Crosshair kind of sees it as they're superior. But yeah, I just like the continuous dialogue where Crosshair is just kind of, he's set, right? And that's really kind of what this is showing, is like because I thought maybe through him being saved by Omega and them kind of making it out of this facility together, that he would come around, right? Or at least stubbornly come around. But it ends in some very great scenery, right? As Kamino for once doesn't have pouring rain on it and the storm has passed and Kamino sinks in a burning flame into the ocean, he still is going to choose for the Empire to come by and pick him up, hopefully take him in with open arms. Like, oh yeah, you made it out. We get it. They're dead. You're alive. Makes sense. I don't know. That doesn't seem right, Crosshair.
Yeah, because then he's almost got to like track him in secret on his own anyway, while still, using the Empire's ships and stuff.
Well, I mean, I don't. Maybe he's done. Like maybe they're completely done with each other. Because they tried at this point. Both the batch finally got around. Like even though they never purposely came back to save Crosshair basically, the whole like I'm going to give you a chance that you never gave me, back to that line. But like they basically both had their opportunity to say, Crosshair's like, you join me in the Empire, and then Hunter's like, no, you should come with us and forget the Empire. And still neither agreed to either. Jordan here, he asks, how many episodes of the show is there per season? Sweet Jeebus. 16 in this. They originally had it for 14, and then they decided it was going to be 16. Very, very Clone Wars like, very Rebels like.
Yeah.
But they stacked them on for sure.
Yeah, because even, we kind of assumed were they ever, going to mend the relationship or not throughout the season. And then, Crosshair wanting to be stranded on the only floating thing left.
Arguably the whole,
I'd even be like, hey,
planet.
I mean, wouldn't you at least be like, I'll tell you what, you can drop me off at the next planet. It was something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like, I'll just chill on this pad. I still rather just stay out here and take it.
Yeah, well, Tech does say, like, eventually a patrol's going to come through. And obviously he wants to make it at least, like, if he got completely off planet, the Empire would for sure know that, he had help. So at least this way it looks like he made it out somehow. And also, I don't see that going well for Crosshair. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. But they all make it off the planet. They get out of there, and very good visuals once again, and very thematic as well. As they all kind of take a glimpse at the last of Kamino or Topeka City, that one specifically. But when when they finished destroying the facility before the Empire left, they kind of like flew away. That clone that was reporting the Rampart noted that every Kaminoan facility was destroyed. So it wasn't just that one. They destroyed every facility on the whole planet, by the sounds of it. So Kamino is arguably just a water planet now, and the Kaminoans are no more. Except for the scientists that they took away to that very cool looking planet at the very end. I thought that was cool. I don't know if that was meant to be Darrow that we saw a few episodes ago where they took Hunter, but those bases in the mountain were just awesome. They're like dome structures covered in like trees and earth. I don't know. That was really cool looking.
Yeah. No, that's what I thought too. I didn't know if it was the same planet, but I was like, damn, this is, the visuals again, just badass, stunning.
Oh yeah. And then no, go ahead.
I would say just that last little scene, even was nice little drama, suspense, just like the Empire's up to something, right?
Yeah.
Again, now so season, just a little teaser for season 2.
Yeah, and that's like obviously there's a lot more themes. I think there is eventually, and I brought this up before, like there is the whole Clone Rebellion story arc that was in it's basically Legends content at this point. But I think they are gearing up for like season 2 or something where there will be a Clone Rebellion, right? Where we have more Housers and, basically clones not dealing with the Empire's ways, and they just basically rebel somehow. And I think they're gearing up for that. Because even when that clone was reporting that to Rampart, like he kind of seemed like reluctant to report that all the facilities were destroyed because it is the clone's home. So obviously with no Jedi anymore to execute Order 66, their purpose for following the Empire so blindly is going to slowly diminish, like we saw with Hauser and obviously Hunter very early on. So I think that'll be a story arc we get eventually. But I say that because I am mildly annoyed that so far out of the 2 Disney Plus series, right, we have The Mandalorian and now The Bad Batch. I am bothered that both of their primary story arcs are tied to each other, and then all the way forward to explain how Palpatine and the Empire were working to make a clone for Palpatine to live forever, which was the most recent trilogy's kind of arc, right? That they kind of pieced together. So it does bother me that these 2 shows are focused on cloning, because in The Mandalorian, you watched The Mandalorian, right?
I've seen a couple episodes. I have to go back and still finish it, but I've read most of what has taken place throughout it.
Yeah, because Grogu's primary purpose why the Empire is after him is to work on like a force sensitive clone for Palpatine, right? And then here we have this, obviously it fits because it's Kamino, so they like destroyed Kamino because they wanted the monopoly on cloning technology in the galaxy, and then obviously naturally they would be trying to do that, so it makes sense. And I think linear, like if the story's watched linearly, that very last scene works well because it's setting up a future storyline. But the way it's released, and if you're all caught up on it like most people are that are fans of Star Wars, it's just kind of like a dull point because we already knew that. But I think like if you were to watch it all in order, it would hit a little differently.
Yeah, I would say I noticed too. I think we called it like they casually mentioned to Crosshair how Omega is older.
Yeah,
than
the tech thing.
And yeah, but it was just like we didn't get a whole, we didn't get Omega's real origin story quite yet, right? But we know she's old enough to be there when the batch was. But I thought too, just kind of like they did, like they just kind of casually mentioned it in a couple sentences, and then that was it again.
Tech came through with his typical like, I was paying attention last time, I just didn't say anything, and here we go like sometime later it's like, oh yeah, Omega mentioned this, and I like thought about it a little bit, and here's the whole spiel. But also I think interesting, I think in this episode they specifically noted how she was there when they were created, because she said she spent most of her life in this lab. So so she, I think, is a she has deaccelerated aging. Because if she was there when, like, obviously if she was, I think, created at the same time, it makes sense that she looks half their age. But if she was there and can recall them being created, I think she has deaccelerated aging, for her to appear so young, but obviously have been there when they were born, which is as old as she looks.
Yeah, and she did kind of say too, like where she's like that. I think she tells Crosshair, she's like, "That's why I sought you 4 out again."
Right.
We kind of wondered like, oh, did she just kind of, was it random or what? And she did mention, that she sought them out.
Yeah, because they're her little brothers. So imagine like eventually being able to relink with the only family you technically know of outside of the regular clones. Like obviously she saw them created in the same lab she was created, so they're very much a family to her. And like to know, because Crosshair was like, oh, she's calling the shots now, like kind of making a jab, right, that the batch is taking orders from her, obviously before he knew that she was older than them. I mean, she's less of a little sister now, so if you kind of, with that information, she's more so either a big sister or even like the mother, right? The way she acts with them, like she has always the like the moral high ground. She's always like, you have to save everyone, you have to treat everyone nice. Like she has all these like super high motherly standards at times. Whereas, before earlier in the season, you're kind of wondering like, how does she have so much like influence and sway? Obviously, like she's the little sister, but really her growth as a character is more so in that direction than like the little sister that they protect.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely took on different like narrative, from the beginning to the end there, and where the relationship, because we were really, it seemed like father daughter mostly between
right,
Hunter and Omega, and then here, and it's kind of like you said, it could even be parent, kid relationship, but where Omega, would be more in the maternal role there.
Yeah, and like I think morally and like from just the fact that she is older and has like a cleaner moral compass, she's like more of a mother character, but she's more so just like a big sister or equal to Hunter, because he showed her a lot about, and the rest of the batch, a lot about the universe at large, right? How you behave around other people, how to trust people, how to not trust people, and how to function like that. But she's kind of teaching them the other end of things, where this is the more normal things that you should think about and do, right? Doing the right thing and the better thing. And that's something Hunter is always trying to understand too. So it is very symbiotic how they get along. So yeah, I mean, definitely, maybe big sister is the place to land that on. Big sheltered sister that you never knew you had, if that's a thing.
I don't know if you noticed too, like there were even like maybe just one or two times, but when they're like when they go in the tunnels, and it was her idea, and then AZ's, but Crosshair's like, "Are you sure about this?" And they're just all like, "Let's go." And it starts cracking, and Omega kind of takes Crosshair's point of view, and she's like, "I don't know, maybe we should turn back." And then so she kind of switches to Crosshair's point of view, but they still just So you see her not even like you said, not even just following Hunter or what he would do, but even not straight Crosshair, with his no mercy and stuff like that. But even just a little bit to where back and forth a little bit.
And that's her just knowing when to trust people. Like that's also something she trusts AZ, even though she was unsure about the situation. She trusts AZ, and shout out to AZ for being like the MVP of this episode, because he could we have to go through the tube no matter how like sketchy this looks. It's the only way. And then obviously MVP with the whole pod thing and like floating them up to the surface.
Yeah.
And then I legit thought he was done. I thought he was toast.
Yeah, that was a nice little scene. And up until that point where it's like, oh, it's going to be the sad like Disney scene, he was like the comedic relief kind of throughout this tense episode. Not the only comedic part, but it's definitely a good part. Just I've ran the numbers as long as nothing else goes wrong.
Yeah, he was the most positive, and at least he knew like we have to keep going, right, if we're gonna survive. Where most of the time they were like, we need to do something else, but he's like, this is the only way.
I did think too. I was like, he turned that power on pretty easily. I was like, is there nowhere else in there where he could have turned some power on? Like,
but that drained it. I like that he overloaded the system, and like that was like an issue real briefly. And then Crosshair with the odd change of heart there, like ever so briefly, and he like saved AZ with he sniped a cable through the water. Like that seemed like a long distance. Like that cable had some oomph to it from that rifle to like just shoot straight through the water. Like plus also, unless he's got like, I don't know, you can't see that deep into the water. That was wild.
Yeah, and I guess she did come up with that. I was thinking, I was like, man, if he could have just done that, much longer is he going to wait to see if she popped up before he just he could let her grab on, But but then he kind of throws it to Wrecker. I kind of just like this the best they're gonna get, out of them for working together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, and that
kind of
gun
without
was
saying it, he's like or I think he's like we're even now, but that's
Yeah, and at first I was like, how did he get that gun? But then I remember in the last episode, Hunter threw his backpack on. So he had his
yeah,
backpack with the gun slot in it. So
yeah,
he has scooped his gun off Hunter's back and pulled
yeah.
a bullseye through the water. I don't know. That was
I don't know if it was just me, but until like they showed the scene where they're all standing there, I kind of didn't even recognize that Echo was in the show for most of the time. It didn't seem like there was much like Echo going on. I know, like I think he
there
was in a
wasn't.
park with Tech, but really, I didn't see like I don't even know if Echo had a speaking line in the show.
Uh was he the one that I think he said the whole bunk up thing because Wrecker was complaining about like the pod being small, and he was like, at least you don't have to bunk up. So Tech or Echo said that,
Yeah, maybe.
but it's always Tech and Echo. Like they're kind of like
Yeah,
interchangeable. They're almost like twin brothers at this point because
yeah,
they're like two sides of the same coin and they complement each other well. And obviously they get the bunk up in the same pod.
yeah,
But Hunter and Crosshair did, right? Yeah, they did.
yeah,
So that was cool.
yeah,
Now that was a good scene too, letting them kind of getting out of there. And I for sure thought AZ was done. That was gonna be the death, right? The death that we got.
yeah. That's what I thought.
But we didn't get any, right? We just get
Yeah,
get generalized death, like destruction
yeah,
of the facility,
yeah.
termination of the prime minister, but nothing specific. No main characters.
I think that's how Omega's got herself a droid now too. For her,
Yeah,
So
the Gong droid wasn't good enough for her on the ship.
yeah,
He was too busted. But
yeah.
yeah, she's got
She's just taking it all in.
yeah, and that's her friend too. Like that was her friend from Kamino, so that makes sense. But yeah, she's got her own little sidekick droid, which is good. AZ's a solid droid to have around, and it kind of AZ is kind of like Bane's droid, right? They both like hover around and can do a lot of cool little stuff. So her and
Yeah,
Cad Bane got like the same sidekick at this point.
yeah. And then I imagine too that part of him being saved, he'll probably have some information because I imagine they're going to end up trying to save, the scientists. So I was going to ask you, the lady that comes out and greets her, Namaste, was she a recurring character or is she new to that scene? Because
So the only thing I could pick up on her is her outfit and like her headgear and stuff. She is dressed just like the cloning scientist from The Mandalorian, Dr. Pershing in The Mandalorian. That makes some appearances and is always after Grogu in terms of like getting his samples and stuff. And she had like they call it the Kamino symbol, but it might be more than that. Might be some sort of like scientist guild perhaps in the galaxy, but she was basically donning the outfit of a cloning scientist. So outside of that, I don't think she is a recurring character or anything like that. But definitely, yeah, they're setting up the whole. They brought Nalase to kind of do some specialized cloning experiments for them.
yeah,
And but they're not aware of that whole plot line still. Like the Batch isn't aware of the plot line of the Empire trying to clone anything, right, in the future. AZ would be the only person I would say next season to make let it slip. Be like, oh yeah, they got rid of. I don't know if they said it in these episodes, but they evacuated all the scientists. They killed everyone else.
I think it was episode 15 when he comes out, so he knows that she's been taken.
Yeah.
So that's why I think probably why he didn't end up going to the bottom of the ocean because he's gonna probably be have that information to link them to her and have that skirmish with the Empire.
Yeah. So that could be something. So that's a good point. Like, do they try to save Nalase, or like what would be their goal in going back to this? I mean, going to an Imperial facility that's just like not good.
I gotta have a feeling once Omega knows we gotta save her. Like,
right. Omega is always kind of that person saying like, we got to do something.
yeah.
And maybe that's what they do. But also, now let's say, so let's talk about her for a minute. Now let's say spent the better part of the first half of the season trying to keep Omega from the Empire, right? And or the from the Prime Minister. The Empire still doesn't really know about Omega unless they like pulled the data on her from the drives and stuff from the facility. But like right now, Nala Se is the only one that really knows about Omega. So
Yeah.
unless there's a reason Nala Se flips and like needs Omega, I'm interested to see what the driving force is there still that we haven't really had in a while, because right now it's just kind of the batch surviving out in the galaxy and dealing with Crosshair. But I feel like Crosshair is going to leave them alone, and they also don't care about Crosshair too much. So I feel like they've gone their separate ways officially. They took all season to get there. I think they built up a conflict that never really ended up happening, which is understandable. But yeah, I wonder. They're definitely just telling like generalized stories about what's going on right now. There is no like giant plot device outside of the cloning agenda, right? To make a clone for Palpatine. Because, obviously Rex is doing stuff. The Batch is always going to be getting into adventures. Crosshair's got his little storyline. But it's mostly going to be the Batch getting into shenanigans and getting pulled into more of these arcs of things. So it's definitely very much the Batch is a means to explore the wider Star Wars galaxy at this time. And I think they're building up to a clone rebellion, which they obviously would be involved in to a great detail.
Yeah, I could
if
see
the
like
primary causers of it, like they could cause the rebellion.
I could see their paths definitely dividing until maybe say like, because eventually it's inevitable. Crosshair is gonna get pushed to a point by the Empire where he realizes, right, kind of that Hunter's right, that you're just a disposable, just killing machine when they're done with you. So I think whether it just kind of say like you said, there was a rebellion and maybe Crosshair, that's when he switches because it's just the final straw. But I could see them not really, crossing paths too much until then at all.
That would be interesting. Like if Crosshair has a redemption arc where either he, right, just like dips just because he decides like, yeah, this isn't for me, or the Empire like severely like screws him, and does he like cause the rebellion, right? And he's like, all right, I'm just gonna trigger it. And obviously the Batch are looped into that at that point, and then he goes back to the Batch. So now that they ended this first season like this, there's definitely this possibility for a clean and successful Crosshair arc, redemption arc. But I still think these characters, except Omega, don't have room in the wider narrative for Star Wars, right? Beyond this point. So basically like up to Rogue One and like even Solo, I think Solo is the movie Solo is probably is definitely after this series would end. So to me, the Batch has to die, right, in this series. And they're probably setting Omega up to carry forward throughout, maybe in like another show that's set into the future, but they're gonna have to explain Omega not being present in a lot of Star Wars content. If they were to keep her around. So I'll be real interested to see how they move through this. And I mean, they're not opposed to like killing off characters in these shows, because obviously Clone Wars, lots of different characters died throughout that. And then also Rebels, there's a loss of some major characters as well. So they have to do it at some point, because I just don't see Hunter, unless Hunter like retires to like a farming planet like Cut from episode 3. I don't know.
Yeah, and I say too, and unless Crosshair doesn't really sell it, this is kind of the first time since it started where the batch should kind of have a little bit of time to, actually think it out and on the fly, right? Because as far as the Empire would know, they're
They're
dead.
dead. Yeah, more or
So
less.
they should be any radar they were on, you know, they should be thought dead. So they should have at least maybe an episode or two of season 2 to begin with, where you know we see some kind of something playing out where they'll get dragged into, but you know
I mean, that
they
goes
kind
back to the complication with Crosshair's choice here. All right, if he happens to convince the Empire that just he survived,
yeah
what are they going to do when the batch eventually shows up somewhere, right? Doing something. And they're like, so Crosshair, I thought they were dead, right? Like, what happened? I
hmm
just don't see the Empire playing that. I just don't think they're going to believe him. Like, and if they did believe him, it's not going to hold up for long because the batches are going to be in hiding forever. So I don't know what Crosshair is. I get he thinks he wants to join the Empire and be on the winning team, but like Hunter said, like Hunter's right here. Like, dude,
yeah
they're just using you and you're nothing to them, literally.
yeah yeah. So like I said, it can be interesting. I mean, because we didn't get answers to everything, but we didn't really get, it wasn't like a huge cliffhanger with a lot of questions,
Right.
some suspense, I guess, but, you know, for season 2, I mean, I guess, it just ended. So I don't even know when season 2 will come out, but I don't, it could go, I think, a lot of, different ways. It doesn't seem like there's a set path to where it's going to be beginning. Season 2 will begin where we definitely know where the batch is like heading, or anything like that.
And that was kind of the lackluster part about this finale was it
Mhm.
did just kind of end on like a very okay tone. Like there was no immediate danger. Everyone was accounted for. So it definitely set the tone for the series where
Yeah,
they are really just exploring the state of the galaxy with the batch and like what they're doing. And there is no primary conflict right now, which lines up narratively with how the galaxy is, because really the Empire's taking over. It's still, the war is still won. The separatists are gone, droid armies are turned off, the Republic is transitioning into the Empire, and there really is no enemy to the Empire. It's really just like Saw Gerrera's local rebellions, little things like that, but there is no open wide conflict to be any immediate danger. So it would make sense for the batch to be in this kind of like aimless position where there isn't an urgency right now in the show for anything to be happening.
yeah. And I think why that like ending scene definitely like it set something up. Had that character been a more prominent character of the Empire or something, I don't even
Right.
know who, but that may be like, oh, okay, like it's gonna go in this direction. But the fact we know it's the Empire, but that's why like I asked, had that said like I don't know, just say like you could tell it was Vader's cape or something, just
Yeah.
something coming out of that cave, you know. But the fact that it was kind of just a generic Empire, stooge, you know.
Yeah, and I mean that's where so like they went the route of like no cameos, no like crazy character reveals or deaths, and they just
Yeah,
kind of they played to the nature of what the series is right now. And there isn't anything crazy going on because I feel like people would still have issue if they forced in a giant character cameo at the last scene or
yeah,
something. It would have been
yeah,
cool. It's always cool in Star Wars, but there just
yeah,
wasn't a need for it. And I think linearly, that scene makes sense. It
yeah,
doesn't make sense right now. It was kind of muted because, like I said earlier, we know what's going on with that timeline. Like we know why they're taking Nala Se and the scientists. They're trying to make a clone for Palpatine. We know that.
yeah.
But linearly, this is kind of the first time, if you were to watch everything in order, that whole plot line would be developed. So from Filoni's perspective, if you were to do this all in order, that would be the right time to say, dun 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 dun. The Empire's trying to do some special project with cloning. No one knows what it is. You'll find out for the rest of everything Star Wars. So I see it, but it does it hurts the episode, or at least the ending of this season to some degree. It was empty. Not that it wasn't good. It was just a lot of focus on the end of Kamino, the tying up of the Batch's characters, because we spent a lot this season through all the like filler episodes and the little arcs exploring the change of this group of clones, right, to where they are now, to the final point where it's like, are they going to just go back to what they were? Crosshair comes back, everything's great. No, I mean, they're going their separate ways. The Batch knows who they are. Crosshair thinks he knows who he is, and we know more about Omega. And that's all the show really is at this point, and that's fine.
Yeah. That's what too. I mean, I was fine with the fact that there weren't, besides the little recap where they show Rampart and stuff, it was a bad Batch episode. There was no Sid, no, anything. And they, had this, ridiculous situation to get out of. And I think it was probably the first time we actually see them with Omega and Crosshair, whether Crosshair, is reluctant to work with them or not.
Yeah, we finally get some full episodes where it is just Crosshair and Hunter, right? Or Crosshair and the rest of the Batch, and we get them all interacting again. And I think that's ultimately like what we missed from the first episode, and that's where we wanted it to get back to, and they did it.
Because you would think too, like if there's not many probably other dire situations you would think of where it'd be real ideal for everyone to be on the same page. And they're still just kind of like the whole time, it's like, oh, we just survived this situation. And then, they're just all back and forth. And then, shit hits the fan again. They survive that. And then Hunter and Crosshair just right back at each other. So it wasn't even, like they were even talking, oh, you could come back now, stuff like that. But you still just felt like it's still just the same tension was kind of there,
Yeah. And they did fall back into their usual groove and, argue like Crosshair and Wrecker, they got into it. And, basically Crosshair calls Wrecker dumb all the time. And Wrecker's like, why are you always a big jerk, dude? And Tech always in with the technical explanation. So, I mean, ultimately that's what we wanted to see, is we just wanted to see Crosshair and the Batch back together, even though that they're at odds. We got to see that for 2 episodes, and they kind of really focus on that. No Sid, none of that other stuff. I will be interested, though, if they continue to work with Sid. They probably will. We'll probably still see more Sid filler episodes in the next season. But I do wonder if we take like a direct shift into where, like, is Rex a more prominent character the next season? Do we see more? Does the whole Boba thing start to get fleshed out some more, what with Fennec and stuff? There's definitely, I think now, even though there wasn't a lot resolved, the main thing got resolved with Crosshair, and now there's a lot of room for them to really kind of get into new adventures. And Kamino's gone, they're presumed dead, like you said. There's a lot of room for just some fresh adventures to start. And that's really what these animated series are about, is just kind of like adventures in the galaxy. And not always driving some big mega arc plot device forward. Just inching and nudging ones along. So, and that's what all these series a lot have been, is like, it's the first few episodes and the last few episodes. And then there's all the stuff in between where we get good character development. And that's really what they focus on.
Yeah. I think too, like sometimes, like some of them, obviously maybe a little like slow, but I think some too, people just sometimes you just got to take some of them for just fun episodes,
Yeah.
You think sometimes we maybe always focus on trying to see some bigger thing they're tying together, but sometimes it's just, especially something like this, there's just, fun episodes, like you said, it just shows some, just some random times in their days where they're not always going against the Empire and stuff like that. It might have still been missions, but it's like fighting the Rancor and trying to tame it, stuff like that.
Yeah, and ultimately, like for us prequel fans, the big thing here is like they on screen we got to see the end of Kamino, which is a major event that did happen in Star Wars universe that we've never seen before, right? And they're spending a lot of time just letting that sink in, literally sink into the ocean.
Yeah.
No pun intended. So that's the big mover in these final episodes, and that's really what the show should focus on, right? And these clones and how they're dealing and what the things they had to deal with in the end of the final days of the Clone Wars. And the clone era is officially kind of done. Everything here forward is 100% Imperial era, and they just kind of are loose ends at this point. All of them, all the clones that are inevitably, not many make it beyond this point, and they're going to slowly start getting like trimmed down, dying.
Man.
Cut, we can assume he lives a very peaceful, happy life, and whatever planet they've resettled on. Rex makes it presumably all the way to Return of the Jedi. So, they find places for them, but wide in part, like the clones as a thing diminishes, and this is what this series is focusing on. So they're definitely going to take their time and address all the key points here.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I can't I'm curious to see what all they fit in season 2. See if it's 16 episodes. I wonder if they liked how it rolled out, or if they maybe changed the length of the season and stuff. But I definitely think it's cool to see the Star Wars whole thing built out, in different ways and stuff, whether it's animated or not. So,
yeah, I imagine they'll stick to 16 episodes a season. I don't. Usually with the animated series, once they kind of figure out what the length is, they stick to it. Clone Wars, there's like 7 seasons, so those are kind of
I guess I forgot about
But Rebels is pretty consistent, if I remember correctly. I feel like that came in around 20, 22 episodes, somewhere in around there. So they'll probably be like 15 to 16, 14 at the least for these. And I still think 4 seasons. And I like 4-season shows. That just seems like 4 to 5 seasons. That just seems like the sweet spot for me. So that's all I would really want to see this go on for. And Rebels only was 4 seasons too, so I think 4 is where this will kind of land. 3 at the earliest. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else in this episode worth noting. Yeah, outside the visuals, the music was always like real subtle. They always do a good job at baking in all the like Star Wars themes and music into all these episodes, especially like lining it up with the cinematography of it all. And Kamino has sun. The sun does shine on that place. Coincidentally, exactly after everything gets blown up, the sun does shine. Then they went on their merry way. But yeah, I
say definitely had like the Star Wars vibe, like you said. Maybe more explosions and catastrophe than usual, but definitely had all the right Star Wars feel, the music, and the different settings. It's kind of like getting out of the Death Star before right in time. You know what I mean? Like you said, like using the pods and that whole scene. I thought that was really cool. So definitely, thought that I'm can't wait. See season 2 and see where they go. With it because it's just I don't like I tried to even I was thinking about it since I watched it on Friday and I'm like honestly it just it's hard to tell where it's even going to kick off from.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to do like some kind of time jump. Right, like how far forward are we going to go? Because that is one of the most interesting things is like what sort of time space is this show going to fill by the time it ends? So are they going to bring it up to like a solo-ish time era, a Rogue One, right? Like probably not Rogue One. That's pretty far forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Andor series that's coming out, where it's just about Cassian, that's going to be pre-Rogue One, so they're probably not going to overlap with that much.
Yeah.
So,
they did
have. Go ahead.
This one, it started. The opening scene was, pretty action packed, right, and stuff. So you would think they kind of, I would assume, want to have that same feel. So that's why I don't know if we did at least a little bit to see the batch has gotten back into some shenanigans, or if we take off, and they're on the ship looking down, at like crosshairs, like a speck on the platform, or something like that.
A cold open into some action would probably be the best way to go about it. I think that would be very fitting. Maybe like in the thick of it with Rex, maybe Saw Gerrera, right? Just like jump right back into something, a previous little arc or a character that they're involved with, helping them out, and then kind of like taking off from there. But I mean, they're going to be following along with Crosshair, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be cool. Hopefully, too. Like, I know it was a little long, but how they did the first episode where it was, over an hour, almost like a movie to start it. I think with all the ways you could go, I wouldn't mind it being, like a 3 episode kind of at once. To build, see, to get it kicked off.
Always start off with a big story arc. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do like the 90-minute opener, but they could do an arc at the beginning. Very much what that was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Overall, I mean, I really love this series, and anything clones, I'm down for. And especially this is just such a fun period because in an unexplored period too, at least. Excuse me, I got a cough going on, but just like the Empire at this point, right, where they're transitioning to everything, and you see a mix of Republic craft and technology moving into like the Empire taking over. It's just such a fun time to explore, and a good set of characters that people do enjoy. I mean, it's a fun show, and I do love it. So very excited for season 2 next year. But I mean, that's all I really have for this. It was pretty clean and cut. Not too much baked into this episode, but just a lot of continuation of last. Nothing too complicated. So definitely enjoyed it. You got anything else?
I just said, overall, I liked it. Like you said, I haven't watched a lot of Star Wars stuff recently, so definitely makes you want to get back in, mix in some of the Clone Wars, definitely before Book of Boba, and definitely before. I like to, think hopefully they're starting on the batch season 2 soon. I like to think Filoni already has it panned out and stuff, but hopefully we're almost 4 months from 2022 already. So
yeah, I mean they got probably like 9 months, but I'm pretty sure most of it's probably at least in production or completed story wise.
Yeah, I'd like to think so too. So I'd like to think hopefully by the end of 2022 we'll have it.
Yeah, hopefully we're done with like the the story delays and stuff. or like show delays, and like they can just get on like a regular schedule. So next May, hopefully season 2 starts. And it's another like summer show. Probably on Wednesdays next year. That'll be the one big change because I think Disney's doing all their shows on Wednesdays, unless there's overlapping. Because this overlapped with Loki, so
yeah,
they could keep this on Fridays because the longer running animated show kind of makes sense because they want to keep their live action stuff premiering on Wednesdays because that worked out well. So
yeah.
I don't know if they would release 2 shows simultaneously on a Wednesday. I would still watch them both. So
And who knows? Honestly, like the slate's only going to get more and more full between Star Wars,
between
Disney
Star Wars and
properties, Marvel, even Disney properties. Like they're doing. I watched the Mighty Ducks show that they did. They're doing a season 2 of that. And that was coming out the same days as Falcon and Winter Soldier, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So like, it just depends.
No, okay. So they'll probably just overlap on Wednesdays if that's what they want to do. So I just know they don't want to conflict with like theatrical stuff on Fridays.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think Wednesday would probably make sense for it. But like I said, who knows? Like, what? Even by the time they get it out, just between everything that they'll be releasing on the Plus, like.
Yeah, because next year it's going to be like full swing, both Marvel and Star Wars. Not to mention everything else. Like, that's when all the shows will start really falling into place and get going.
Yeah. Because they have, there's like 4 or 5 Marvel Disney Plus shows either like filming or have wrapped filming and are in like post production.
Yeah, there's the Book of Boba. We got the Mandalorian. Those are Book of Boba December, Mandalorian probably first thing in the new year. We have Obi-Wan Kenobi. We have Ahsoka at some point. I think that's all 2022 stuff too. So like that's all just gonna be rolling right along. So
yeah.
There's enough planned in each IP to fill the whole year, more or less, like month to month.
Yeah.
And this takes up like 4 months as it is. So I mean, no other shows during summer, so they're gonna have to pack in, unless they're doing 2 Star Wars shows at once, they're gonna have to pack in the live action ones in the fall and spring and winter.
Yeah.
You want to see a comment we just got? Look at this guy.
Oh no.
Professional lurker.
Lurking.
Cool.
That's how you do the finale.
Yep, that's how you end it right there. Yeah. The Janice comment. I think it's the old devil too.
Oh yeah.
Or the little devil bug guy.
Oh yeah.
Dr. Disrespect too. Whole gamut. But yeah, I mean, this is the Bad Batch companion series. The completion of season 1. It was a great season. We loved it. Obviously, go back and watch all the ones you might have missed. We break down every episode. It was a lot of fun doing this.
Yep.
Another Showboys companion series in the books. This is our 3rd. We will likely have another companion series coming out later this year. We haven't 100% settled on a topic, but we're pretty sure we know what we're going to do. But we'll start teasing that as we get closer to that show coming out. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a Prime show, though, for any kind of hints at what it might be. But definitely excited for the next one. I like go to our YouTube page. There's a whole section just for companion series, and we have The Mandalorian season 2, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then now the Bad Batch season 1. So definitely go check those out. And then we will be live this coming Thursday at 9 p.m., which is 8/19, and it will be our 50th episode celebration of the Showboys. It'll be our 50th episode since launching this last August/September, so a full year. So very excited for that. definitely tune in. It'll be a lot of fun. And that's about all I have before I completely lose my voice. Any final words, Mikey? I'm really glad you jumped on and did this with me this long summer, even longer than anticipated. But I did like the fact that we bottled some of these episodes up in pairs. I think that worked out very well.
Yeah.
Lessen the burden of doing 16 Sundays in a row on this. So,
No, thanks for asking me to do it. It was fun. Definitely got me back into Star Wars. So
that's the whole goal. Like, just got as long as people are getting back into Star Wars.
Yeah.
We'll have to pick up a Marvel thing sometime so we can reverse roles, and you can make sure I stay on my Marvel game.
Yeah.
That's always important. But without further ado, that is the final episode of the Bad Batch campaign series for season 1. Thank you for watching, and have a good night. And as always, enjoy this outro by Unlisted Productions. I was thinking, I was almost said underfunded, but that is a recent, very popular friend of ours that has been active lately. So there's Underfunded Scientists and there's Unlisted Productions who made this outro music. I had that mixed around, but enjoy.
We do what we do.